Did you know that one of the most chilling modern-day murder cases began with nothing more than an online friendship? A lonely woman, a charismatic stranger behind a glowing computer screen, and a seemingly ordinary marriage that hid cracks deep enough to be exploited. What started as harmless late-night chats soon spiraled into a deadly conspiracy that shocked not only a small American town, but also the entire world of digital crime investigations. And the most horrifying part? The woman who thought she had finally found love online would later discover that her internet boyfriend had brutally murdered her husband. But the real twist? She realized it only after her husband's death, when it was already too late. Wait until you hear how this story unfolds, because every turn is more shocking than the last. Welcome back to American Nightmare. Today, we're diving into a case that blends online obsession, manipulation, and a gruesome betrayal that left investigators piecing together a murder born in cyberspace. Make sure you stick around until the end, because the courtroom revelations and 2025 updates will leave you speechless. In 2012, in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Michigan, 33-year-old Sarah Whitman seemed to have it all: a stable job, 2 young children, and a husband named David, who worked long hours as a mechanical engineer. To the outside world, they were the picture-perfect family. Friends described them as devoted parents, often at soccer games and school events. But behind closed doors, Sarah felt increasingly trapped. David was distant, often buried in spreadsheets and mechanical designs, rarely making time for romance. Their marriage, though outwardly stable, was emotionally barren. And like many modern stories of loneliness, Sarah sought companionship online. It began innocently. A Facebook group about classic rock music brought her into conversation with Jake Monroe, a man claiming to be a former soldier now working as a security consultant. He was funny, attentive, and always seemed to type the right words at the right time. What Sarah didn't know was that Jake was not only hiding his true identity, but also plotting something sinister that would upend her life forever. Sarah and Jake's messages quickly escalated from casual jokes about music to long, late-night confessions. Jake painted himself as a misunderstood loner who had endured betrayal in past relationships. He fed Sarah compliments she hadn't heard in years. "You deserve better. You're too beautiful to feel unloved. If I were your man, I'd never let you go to bed feeling lonely." These lines worked like emotional bait, and soon Sarah was emotionally entangled. She didn't consider it cheating, at least not at first. But when Jake began calling her "my love" and sending late-night voice notes filled with promises, Sarah knew she had crossed a line. Still, she convinced herself it was harmless, that David would never know. What she didn't realize was that Jake wasn't just a smooth talker. He was carefully studying her life, her husband's habits, and even the layout of her home, all while planning something far darker than an online romance. On a rainy October night in 2013, Sarah came home from a late shift to find flashing police lights outside her house. Neighbors stood huddled in disbelief. Inside, officers found David slumped in the living room, his chest riddled with stab wounds. The scene was brutal, with signs of a violent struggle. The front door showed no forced entry, leading police to believe David either knew his killer or had let them in willingly. Sarah was inconsolable. "Who would do this?" she sobbed, clutching her children. Police initially suspected a robbery gone wrong, but nothing was stolen. That's when detectives started digging into Sarah's digital life, uncovering a trail of online conversations that pointed to one name: Jake Monroe. The problem? Jake wasn't real. The IP address traced back to Jason Miller, a 36-year-old drifter with a violent past and a string of petty crimes across state lines. He had been using a fake name and stolen photos to lure women online, and investigators soon discovered chilling evidence that Jason had driven across state lines the very night of David S.'s murder. When detectives showed Sarah the truth that her charming online boyfriend was actually Jason, a dangerous ex-con, she collapsed in disbelief. No, he wouldn't. He couldn't, she stammered. But the evidence was undeniable. Jason's fingerprints were found on the back door handle, and his car had been caught on a traffic camera near Sarah's house. The most horrifying moment came when detectives played back Jason's interrogation tape. He didn't deny being in the house. Instead, he chillingly said, "I did it for her. She wanted freedom. She wanted love. And I gave it to her." Sarah was stunned. She had never asked Jason to harm David. But in his twisted mind, eliminating her husband was the ultimate proof of devotion. Imagine realizing that the man who sent you sweet goodnight texts was also the man who plunged a knife into your husband's chest. That realization broke Sarah's psyche and became the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. The trial in 2015 drew national attention. Prosecutors painted Jason as a manipulative predator who used Sarah's loneliness to justify murder. The defense argued he acted alone, that Sarah was merely an emotional pawn. But then came the bombshell. The prosecution revealed text messages where Jason hinted at removing obstacles in Sarah's life. Sarah had replied with vague affirmations like, "I just wish things were different." To the jury, these exchanges blurred the line between fantasy and conspiracy. Was Sarah indirectly encouraging him? Or was she simply venting her frustrations? The jury ultimately convicted Jason Miller of first-degree murder, sentencing him to life without parole. Sarah, though investigated for conspiracy, was never charged due to lack of evidence that she explicitly ordered the crime. Yet public opinion was divided. Some saw her as an innocent victim, others as a silent enabler who enjoyed the attention until it turned deadly. In the years that followed, Sarah's life unraveled. She lost custody of her children for several years due to the psychological trauma surrounding the case. Documentaries, podcasts, and true crime YouTube channels debated her role endlessly. But in 2025, the case resurfaced in headlines. Jason Miller filed an appeal, claiming new evidence proved Sarah had encouraged him more directly than the jury believed. His lawyers submitted previously unreleased audio messages between Sarah and Jason, where she allegedly said, "If only David wasn't in the picture, we could finally be together." The state is currently reviewing whether these recordings are admissible, but the possibility of a retrial has reignited public interest. Streaming platforms have also announced new docu-series re-examining the case, with one project set to release later this year featuring never-before-seen police footage. This case became a cautionary tale about online relationships and the blurred line between digital fantasy and real-world consequences. It forced law enforcement to rethink how they investigate crimes where digital communication plays a central role. Today, FBI cyber units routinely track potential digital grooming that escalates into real violence. For viewers, the story is a stark reminder. Be careful about who you let into your life online. Behind the profile pictures and sweet words, there can be darkness lurking. So, what do you think? Was Sarah truly an innocent woman manipulated by a predator? Or did her silence and vague encouragement make her partly responsible for her husband's death? And what will happen if Jason's appeal in 2025 goes through? One thing is certain. This case proves that love found online can sometimes lead to the darkest of tragedies. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as shocking as we did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. And let us know in the comments, do you believe Sarah was guilty of more than she admitted? Or was she just another victim? Do subscribe and stay tuned.